This is chapter 11, Wendy's story, and there's Peter playing the flute. There was a gentleman, said Wendy, settling down to her story, and his name was Mr. Darling. I knew him, John said, to annoy the others. I think I knew him, said Michael, but he wasn't sure of it. He was married to Mrs. Darling and they had 3 children. Now these children had a faithful nurse called Nana. But Mr. Darling was angry with her and chained her up in the yard. And so all the children flew away to Neverland, where the lost children are. Now I want you to try to imagine how the unhappy parents felt after all their children had flown away. It's awfully sad, the first twin said cheerfully. I don't see how it can have a happy ending, said the second twin. If you knew how strong a mother's love is, Wendy told them, you would have no fear. She had now come to the part that Peter hated. You see, Wendy said, the mother always left the window open for her children to fly back through, so they stayed away for years and had a lovely time. Years rolled by, and the window still stood open, and one day the 3 children flew back to their mummy and daddy, and words cannot describe the happy scene that followed. When Wendy finished her story, Peter, who had been playing his pipe, groaned. What is it, Peter? She cried, running to him, thinking he was ill. It isn't that kind of pain, he replied. Wendy, you are wrong about mothers. I used to think like you, that my mother would always keep the window open for me. So I stayed away for many moons and then flew back. The window was barred. My mother had forgotten all about me, and there was another little boy sleeping in my bed. This may not have been true, but Peter thought it was true, and it scared Wendy and her brothers. Wendy, let's go home, cried John and Michael together. Yes, she said, clutching them. Peter, will you help us? If you wish it, he replied coldly. While he was gone, the Lost Boys surrounded Wendy. They wanted to keep her prisoner, but when Peter returned, they realized they would get no support from him. He would not keep a girl in Neverland against her will. Wendy, he said, I have asked the islanders to guide you through the wood. Tinker Bell will take you across the sea. Wake her, Nibs. Tink had been sitting up in bed listening for some time, but Nibs had to knock twice before he got an answer. Who are you? How dare you? Go away, she cried. In the meantime, the Lost Boys gazed very sadly at Wendy. If you want to come with me, I feel almost sure I can get my father and mother to adopt you, she offered. Peter, can we go? They all cried. All right, Peter replied with a bitter smile, and they rushed to get their things. Wendy saw a look on his face that made her heart sink. Get your things, Peter, she cried. No, he answered. I am not going with you, Wendy. The lost boys gazed blankly at him. Their first thought was that if Peter was not going, he had probably changed his mind about letting them go. But he was far too proud for that. "Don't you want to find your mother?" Wendy asked. Now, if Peter had ever had a mother, he no longer missed her. He could do very well without one. He had thought about mothers and remembered only their bad points. No, he told Wendy. Perhaps she would say Perhaps she would say I was old and just want to be a little boy and have fun. "But Peter," she begged. "No," came his firm reply. "If you find your mothers," he said, "I hope you like them. Now then, no fussing or crying. Goodbye, Wendy." Peter was not the kind that breaks down in front of people. "Are you ready, Tinker Bell?" he called out. Tink darted up to the nearest tree, but no one followed her, because it was at this moment that the pirates launched their attack on the islanders. Above ground, the air was filled with screams and the clash of steel. Below there was dead silence. Mouths opened and remained open. Wendy fell on her knees with her arms extended towards Peter. All arms were extended to him, as if suddenly blown in his direction, begging him not to leave them. As for Peter, he grabbed his sword, and he was ready for battle.